remember that they're changing my voice. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering what's going on, why things are the way they are. A good point of reference is Dante's Inferno. However, it is a confusing book, so I've broken it down for you, right? There's basically various circles of hell, okay? But in the Bible, it says Satan is the god of this world with a little g, right? Obviously, God is ultimately in charge, but Satan is kind of social engineering, urban development, urban planning, okay, determining race relations and cultures to a large degree. But just like in the Bible, they're not supposed to persecute me, and they're not supposed to try to tell me what to do, especially, okay, in the end, right? When Satan tries to tempt Jesus in the wilderness, for example, Jesus tells him to go away, and he goes away. In Job, when Satan asked God to tempt, to allow him to test Job, it's something that God allows, and I'm God's representative, so I'm supposed to determine what is allowed and what isn't, and they haven't been doing that. And when you look at it, this isn't some kind of game that somebody made up. These are the divine rules. It's the patterns in nature. So the governing class and their families, their ancestors, etc., okay, according to what their own book is highlighting, are going to pay a severe cost for persecuting me and playing childish games instead of giving me my right to direct this whole thing. Now, keep in mind, when you go to the back of Dante's Inferno, the copy I have at least, you see a picture of someone who's supposedly Dante, and it says, "Abandon all hope, all ye who enter here." So when a child is born, this is why in Luke 23, Christ is saying, don't have kids, right? You'll say by your actions, blessed are the childless women, the breasts that never nursed, the wombs that never bore. Okay? So just by having a child in this world, someone's making a mistake. And again, I am the gate. If somebody is worthy and they're going to find the narrow path, they have to find their way to me. You're going to see that I'm right. Bear with me. You might be a little skeptical now if this is the first video of mine you've watched, but you'll see that I'm right. So Dante starts a journey up a hill and encounters a leopard, a lion, and a she-wolf. Okay. Now Dante, the simple answer is Dante, Dan Set, right? Dantes, right? D-A-N-T-E-S. Okay. So you get Dan, right? Like the tribe of Dan. And you get T-E-S, which backwards is Set. And the character Dante, okay, it's basically like Zeus changes forms, right? And Zeus is key in this thing. Okay, Dante is Set, is Baal, is Satan, is Jupiter, is Zeus. These are all different forms of the same thing. Is Dionysus. Okay, it's the simplest answer. It's the best way to understand why the book is written the way it is written. Okay, and this book is more than a book. This is a blueprint for why people are being treated the way they are. That part is very key here. So he encounters a leopard, right? The leopard martial artist of Africa. Also Dionysus riding a leopard / panther, right? A lion, right? The devil is a roaring lion. The Lion of Judah, right? It's like a jigsaw puzzle. And a she-wolf, the wolf, the symbol of the Roman people. Beware of wolves in sheep's clothes, what have you. Okay. Now, if you're confused right now, that's okay. Because what you really need to get out of this is what the first 7 and 8 circles are, okay, of hell. You need to understand that. Okay, it has to do with the culture you're in and the penalties you're paying while you're going to hell. And I can explain this in terms of, Revelation as well, in terms of, Isaiah, you name it. Okay, I can explain it in terms of Christianity and Judaism. It's not very hard for me to piece together stuff in Islam and explain it that way, or explain it through Dante's Inferno. They're different jigsaw puzzles that are saying the same thing, because the way is the truth and the life. And the way to understand it also is using righteousness and justice as the measuring line and plume line, like it says in Isaiah 28:17. So anyway, the first circle are people in limbo. And basically, this has to do with people who are just being marshaled to hell unless they find their way out, right? So if somebody is thinking better than other people, they're more moral, and they're not falling victim to the sins the same way the other people are on this planet, then they're in a sort of limbo state. Okay, this gets interesting, right? Because a lot of people think of limbo in terms of, there's hell as a cartoon hell, and there's heaven as a cartoon heaven, right? And then there's some kind of state where people are just kind of floating around, hey, what am I doing, right? But it also refers to, and in a sense, first and foremost, if you look at it from the point of view of the Satanists, it first and foremost in their eyes refers to they're designed for this world and what happens when you think better than other people do, except for you're not in the divine martial art order. There's a reason why it's a leopard, a lion, and a she-wolf. Okay, and this goes back to the understanding of the occult and the martial art order in the ancient world. That's how these things were described and communicated, right? God is communicating to you. And in Revelation, the water stands for peoples, nations, multitudes, and languages, all mixed together, right? It's waters. It's all mixed together, right? There's different sentiment floating in the water, it's different degrees of contamination, what have you. So it's all mixed together. So these things are like inseparable. Okay, so when you for example, if you're a gangster, you might speak in Ebonics, you might speak a gangster words, right? And you live in a kind of gangster underworld state. If you're in the corporate world, you're in one of the most deplorable, if not the most deplorable states, right? And you speak corporate language, and you only respond to corporate thinking and nations and multitudes. You're a nation in your own right, right? And the peoples of the corporations and the cultures, the nations have to do with cultures as well, right? Babylon and Babylonian culture, Canaanites and Canaanite culture, right? Okay. So then we get to the second circle, the valley of the winds. The wind and whirlwinds, right? The Lord's punishment in Jeremiah 4:13, for example, is described as winds, right? He says, look, he advances like the clouds, his chariots come like a whirlwind, his horses are swifter than eagles. And there we have the animal again. Woe to us, we are ruined. And the eagle is also a symbol of Rome. The eagle, in a sense, is a symbol of Rome, and the wolf is a symbol of the Roman people. And in a sense, eagles can eat young wolves, and it has to do with them being evil and throwing their young to the wolves, if you will, so to speak. And again, it's jigsaw puzzle. It's to the eagles, to the wolves. It's to any predator as a result of not doing God's work. So living and dying for the wrong reason. So if you're confused about all this, keep in mind what the circles represent and think about the penalties people play. I'm almost out of time here, so I'm going to have to shoot through this. Okay, so the second circle is the valley of the winds. Winds and whirlwinds beat down the people there for pursuing false love and pleasure and leaving behind reason. Okay, so Cleopatra's there. So just like I've been saying for many years now, I say, people aren't deriving love from justice. They're merely following their emotions. And when we get to the eighth circle, okay, we'll see an example of that. We'll also see an example of that when we get to the sixth circle, right? They're following pleasure and mere emotions, right, instead of principles. So these people are guilty at worst of following false love. So they're just people like, hey, I'm looking for, a hot chick and da-da-da. That by itself puts you in a circle in hell instead of in limbo, okay, which is the first circle, right? Puts you into the next circle. The third circle is gluttony. Okay, now keep in mind, a long time ago, food was harder to come by than you think. In fact, it still is very significant because 9 million people starve to death and die of hunger-related issues every year, and 3 million of them are children. Okay, so in the third circle for gluttons, right, you see Cerberus is there barking endlessly, and the people there are stuck in mud that is made by their own vomit, and they are scratched and tormented, okay, by the infernal beast. This is just the third circle, just for eating too much and being focused on your emotion of eating instead of trying to masterfully move. Because, again, I can't stress this enough, life is a martial art obstacle course. So if you're just like, I'm not going to join the martial art order, then you're going to pay in the first circle in limbo. If you're like, well, I'm not going to do that, I'm too busy pursuing a hot chick, instead of true martial is marital scrambled, right? A true love and marriage, then you're going to pay. If you're like, I'm not going to really take care of myself, but I'm going to, quite often, people are overweight, they want a hot chick anyway. Like Weinstein sexually abusing all those celebrities in Hollywood and so on and so forth. Or a desperate big chick who's like, I want to date the top martial artist and I'm going to join a secret society to make it happen. You see what I'm saying? And it's wrong. So there's a lot of things that are connected to that state of being. And when you live it, you're promoting it. And you're leading people astray by your actions. And it's better for you to have a millstone put around your neck and throw into the sea than to lead the little ones away or anyone else. Okay, the fourth circle. I'm going to have to make a part 2. Avarice and greed. They are shoving money in each other's direction and exchanging insults. One group is saying that the other hoards money and the other is saying they're wasting money. It's like the conservatives, the Democrats are saying the conservatives are hoarding money and the conservatives are saying the Democrats are wasting money. And they're both right and they're both in the fourth circle of hell when that is their worst sin. The circle you're in is the sin, in and sin, right? Where your worst sin puts you. The fifth circle, okay? Well, we're out of time here. I'm going to have to do it in part 2.